Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heitz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go!
Welcome, everybody, to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast.
Oh, wait, no, you're not muted. Your voice is really behind.
Okay.
There it is. You're matched up now.
We're good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Another episode of USP, Unofficial Steelers Podcast. Guys, my as you can see here in on my feed, my room is dark because this is gonna be a very dark episode. No, I'm just kidding. But oh man, but it's gonna be back, guys. It's gonna be a good episode. There's a lot to talk about today coming out of week one. That's what most of this show is gonna be. Week one reactions, talking about what happened. With my guy Daniel J here. Daniel, what's been going on, man? What's been happening?
Oh, man, just kind of questioning life right now, man. I thought I had it figured out. I thought I had the NFL figured out. And man, week one throws you in a whirlwind, don't it?
Dude, the week one script has been absolutely insane.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, hopefully it starts to come around. I think every year there's a lot of surprises that happen in week one.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this year it's the same thing. You know, in the last couple of years, the Steelers have won the home opener and then kind of on a slump, or won the opener and then gone on a slump.
Right.
Maybe perhaps this way will be a little bit different. They lose the opener and then go on a little bit of a winning spree.
Yeah, a little bit of a kickstart. Guys, good to see you guys in the chat. As always, put your thoughts out there, guys, as we're talking all throughout this episode. Give us your thoughts, guys, as you do your comments. But thank you all for your support. So, really kind of starting with what you were talking about, just how crazy week one's been. Dude, I think half the league was blown out this week.
Yeah.
I think half the league was blown out, and I think there were maybe about 2 good quarterbacks this week.
Yeah. The one we went up against was one of them.
Yeah, it was it was very, I don't know. It was just like weird. But going off with what you said, Daniel, with kind of the, I don't know, just how odd everything was. I know for sure you weren't expecting that Steeler game to be the way it was.
No, not at all. I thought that the Steelers were going to be more competitive. I figured that they were going to not, you know, we talked about this all offseason. I figured that there wasn't going to be a game like the Philadelphia Eagles last year, like the Buffalo Bills last year, where the Steelers just got blown out by, you know, almost 30 points or close to 30 points. Right. And, you know, I didn't think that was going to happen in week one. It happens in week one. They give up 30 points. Defense looks miserable. Offense looks like they can't, you know, find themselves out of a paper bag. It's horrible.
Yeah. Dude, it was terrible. It was absolutely awful. And dude, I don't even care that they lost, because the Niners are a great team. There's a reason that they were the best team in the best defensive team in the NFL last year. They were a game away from the Super Bowl last year. They've done a great job over the last 3-4 years of putting together a competent team. They have a great offensive system. I feel like you could probably throw. There he is. Welcome to the show, Z. Welcome to the show. The Niners are just all around very talented, and there's a reason they're Super Bowl favorite. But I don't even care that the Steelers lost, because they weren't favored. But it was the fact, dude, of how they came out, how they played that entire game was so discouraging. The fact that you come out and play the way that you did, and nothing changes, nothing gets better, just ultimately unprepared, scared, lost. Like, dude, it was just insane. And I don't get me wrong, I know it's only week 1, and that's the beautiful thing. I'm honestly glad that we have the Niners out of the way now.
Yeah.
And that's probably the toughest defense the Steelers are going to face this season. But still, after the offseason you had, having a great preseason all around, and that's the type of performance you put up. You have 2 weeks to get ready. You're at home. And it, like I said, it's not even that they lost. Dude, if they lost by 7, 10, heck, even maybe if they lost by 13, but just put up a decent fight, I would have been okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
But, dude, it was just miserable. And there's not really any positives that ultimately came out of this game. And there's some factors that are going to impact this team in the coming weeks with Cam Hayward being out, Deontay Johnson being out. Those are at least the 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel, how big of an impact do you think Cam being out for the next 6 to 8 weeks is going to be?
Not as big as TJ Watt being out for 8 weeks, in my opinion. I think that the interior defensive line, the Steelers kind of got some depth there. You know, last season with TJ going down, there was not very much depth behind him. I think even this year, you know, I think that was, even though there's depth behind TJ, that would be extraordinary.
Yeah.
You know, I think I like some of the things I saw in the other players. Keanu Benton in particular, when he was put in, he was a disruptor. You know, you just see his arms wailing around, just throwing linemen around.
Right.
I don't understand why he's not starting. You know,
Yeah.
especially over in Adams. I'm expecting probably Brandon Fehoko to be pushed up to the 53 if he hasn't already, in place for Cam Hayward. And I expect him to be a force out there as well, especially going up against the Cleveland Browns next week, where, you know, they're going to get a heavy dose of Nick Chubb. But,
Yeah.
you know, for this past game, you know, the defensive line in the middle, once Cam Hayward went out, were just gashed, you know, up the middle like crazy. So, you know, if the game plan is going to stay the same with the same personnel, it's going to be a problem. But I think that they're going to implement some more with Keanu Benton and maybe Fehoko or and also probably dress, you know, Armin Watts, you know, somebody who's a little bit bigger and going to be able to stuff up the center there, because the center of the line, because it was absolutely horrible.
Yeah. No, they're going to need it. Benton is easily somebody that needs to be starting right away. Something I've never understood the way Steelers do stuff, man, is just not really right away giving rookies the starting spot. Doesn't mean they have to do that for doesn't mean they have to do that for everybody. But over the years, we can look at their first round picks, their second round picks, and they don't really let them start getting acclimated until the season starts going on. With how the first game went, Daniel, it might be different right now. We might start seeing a little more Joey Porter on Monday. We're definitely going to see more Keanu Benton. We saw a little Darnell Washington a little bit. I thought he did a pretty nice job blocking out there. I thought he made a little bit of a presence out there on, and they're definitely going to give some help against Myles Garrett. Broderick Jones could start. He might be in line to start, given Okoro for his concussion. Dan Moore had a miserable game himself, so I don't really know what their mindset is with that, but there's an opportunity this week for us to see some of these rookies be able to get a shot. And to be honest, I like that a lot, and I think that some of these rookies that we got, man, I think that they'll be better than what we saw on Monday. I have a lot of hope for these guys, and sure, you know, they're rookies. They're going to have their crap and stuff like that, but you got to give them an opportunity. You got to give them a chance. You can't just stash them for 3-4 weeks and stuff like that. You got to let them get their feet wet. And
I wouldn't hold your breath though for the offensive line. I think if Cheeks is healthy, you know, coming off of the protocol, it's going to be Dan Moore and Cheeks again. The offensive line really didn't. I mean, on the run game, it appeared that they really didn't get any rhythm or anything like that. They didn't play well in that aspect. But in the passing game, you know, I went back and watched every play, every passing attempt by Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers on the All-22 today. And there was a couple of plays there where they, didn't do their job, but for the most part, it was pretty serviceable. It was good. It wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as it was perceived on, from the TV's point of view.
Yeah, we'll get into the offense here, but defensively was just an ultimate letdown. And I know the defense was on the field a good bit, but in the first quarter, when you're getting gashed like that, I know TJ Watt had a phenomenal game, but still, like, there was. What's up, Ron? What's up, man? Game made me sick. I couldn't watch after halftime. I was so mad. I don't blame you, dude. I hope you turned it off and did not turn it back on. At the end of the day, everybody deserves a refund. Everybody from that game should get their money back. So, but I feel sorry for them. That's the exact reason why I'm never going to Steeler home opener ever again. Not happening. But when we look at it at the end of the day, Daniel, just really talking about the defense, other than TJ Watt, there's really not much to take away defensively. They had Minkah Fitzpatrick moving around, which I didn't really like too much. Cole Holcomb, they had him ultimately in a Robert Spillane type role. I still just don't understand why they continue to put linebackers that can't cover and make them cover. I don't get that. Other than, like I said, TJ Watt, there just wasn't really enough. There wasn't enough pressure generated. There were no plays being made. Patrick Pearson was getting toasted by Brandon Ayuk all day. Levi Wallace was awful in coverage. So it was just an overall, just complete dismantle defensively. It really was. But I'm going to say this, though. I still like their defense, and I think that this defense will be quick to get itself going.
I think that as far as this defense goes, the secondary played awful. And I think there's some context that needs to be added there. A lot of these guys are new to the team, and they're playing against a team that does a lot of motion, a lot of misdirection. And in order to be successful against a 49ers team, you have to be able to communicate, and maybe not even just communicate, but also have that, chemistry and comfort that the guy that's playing next to you or the safety that's covering over on top of you is going to be there. And they don't have that yet. A lot of times when Troy Polamalu would do things, special or whatnot, he's often said it's because he trusted his guys around him to have his back. Yeah. And these guys are so new together, they don't have that. So I can see where, like, for instance, Patrick Peterson came out and he was talking on All Things Covered, and he mentioned the touchdowns, and he was talking about the first one, where he slipped or whatnot, and he didn't blame it on the slip. He said that it was a bonehead play on him, and that he was playing a little bit too outside, and that it was his fault. Right, basically he didn't execute it correctly. That basically the receivers did a switch at the snap, and he ended up going too wide. And then when he tried to get back in position, it just didn't work out. Right. The other one he talked about, like, he said he should have turned around quicker. He really didn't make any excuses, just took it all. So he should have turned around quicker. In that second touchdown, that was a 50-50. I mean, you couldn't cover that better. I think that, if he does turn his, head around, he's going to at least, break up that pass. So, I think Levi Wallace didn't play well at all. I think Desmond King is probably going to get a hat this upcoming Monday night. Yeah.
As he should.
Right.
I think the guy's going to make a good difference there.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that we're probably going to see a little bit more of Joey Porter going forward as well. I was concerned with the fact that they didn't play Joey Porter with the ones throughout preseason and his little play. But then again, they did kind of the same thing with Keanu Benton, and he looked, in his small amount of snaps that he had, I thought he looked serviceable and more than serviceable, very much usable. And, I just hope that philosophy of, like, hey, we have these rookies, they're on an agenda, there's a plan for them to come in at a certain point, but at a certain point, if the rookie's better than the veteran, put the rookie in.
Yeah, I agree, man. I really do. And I hear you too. Like even losing Cam sucks, of course. But something that they do have that they didn't have last year was more depth. And Cam's not out for the season. Cam's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, however long it takes for this groin to heal. But it still sucks. His presence alone doesn't get overlooked. But I agree with the fact that you can be able to get guys on the defensive line that can stuff your run and be able to get some pressure from your edge and stuff like that is a lot better than having Cam there who does his thing and then not having TJ Watt. I mean, you just see the difference TJ Watt makes. I mean, the guy had 2 forced fumbles and 3 sacks. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's just absolutely insane. Z asks thoughts on Loudermilk's performance.
When it came to Loudermilk, I thought he actually performed better than he has been. I don't think he's world breaker or anything like that. I thought he got a little bit of a pass rush. His run stopping was a little bit of a concern, but I didn't think he played that bad. I thought he played all right. I would have probably put him up there with maybe better than Leal. I think Leal was better than Martavius Adams by a long shot. And I know they play different positions, but just in, comparable to where they play,
right.
The interior offensive or defensive line was just,
yeah.
I mean, when McCaffrey runs for the amount of yards that he does, it's just horrible.
Now, Daniel, let me ask you this. When the Steelers, and we'll get to the offense, talk about the offense here. When the Steelers scored that touchdown before halftime, did you feel like that could have been something that could have changed the pace of the game? Because then right away, McCaffrey scored that touchdown, that 70-yard touchdown or whatever it was. Like how'd you feel after that going to halftime? Like, all right, we finally scored a touchdown. We got on the board. We have a half here. If our defense make a couple stops, maybe this might be a good kickstart to the offense. Obviously, it wasn't. That didn't happen. But did you feel a little better?
I thought that maybe perhaps they could get some rhythm. They looked out of rhythm the entire first half, even throughout the 2-minute drill. Yeah. They didn't look in sync at certain parts of it. There was some penalties that aided that drive as well. A personal foul on Najee, getting hit out of bounds and extending that 15 yards. And that was another one in the near the end zone, a hold on Deontay that extended that drive again as well. So to me, I thought that they couldn't get in rhythm. That pass that he threw to Pat Freiermuth for the touchdown, I thought that was probably his best throw of the day. And it was 4 touchdown. I thought, okay, you know what? They're down by 13 points. This is reasonable. Maybe perhaps can get into rhythm that could build some confidence in Kenny Pickett. But, I think that maybe perhaps, I do feel that they were probably deflated when McCaffrey goes and does that long run.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. And yeah, I think that was just detrimental at that point. I think if the Steelers stopped them at that moment, going in, all right, you got some momentum, you're going. I think that the Steelers make it a game at the very least.
Right. Yeah. No, I was feeling like after that they did it, just that it'd be a good opportunity in the second half, and felt in the way of, okay, let's just kind of get a couple of stops. Maybe our offense can get a little more acclimated. But obviously it didn't happen. So really overall, Daniel, do you have confidence, not even just going to this Monday night game, but even just, let's say, the next few games of this even without Cam Hayward, that his defense is going to be able to pick itself up and kind of start playing like the defense that we probably expect them to play as most weeks?
I think that they're going to get back on schedule. And the reason being for that is now there's some tape that I do think they're going to be able to move forward from this and get better, regardless of the injury to Cam. Obviously, if Cam was in there, I think that they would be even more improved. But, him being in there, I still don't think that this team is not going to improve. I think that Keanu Benton is going to improve as an interior defensive lineman. I think that there's going to be some chemistry built behind the for the secondary and the middle linebacker group. And they also have tape on themselves. They can see where they did wrong, see where they need to communicate better, see how they can make this defense better. It's just the first game. Just the first game. I know everybody's kind of yelling that the sky is falling, but it's not. It's not. It's the first game going up against a team that was in the NFC Championship last year. And, I think the Steelers maybe started to feel themselves a little bit too much, drink a little bit too much of their own Kool-Aid going into this game. and took the 49ers lightly, just like majority of us did. There was, mainstream media picking the Steelers as underdog winners.
Right.
I know I picked the Steelers to win by 10, and it's like I think everybody underestimated San Francisco because of the injury to Purdy last year, and the fact that Nick Bosa was in a contract situation. I thought that there's no way they're going to be 100% and be the people that they were, or the players they were, last season, this early in this season. And that was a huge underestimation.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I agree. Yeah, and Ron says the same thing exactly. Daniel, drink our own Kool-Aid with extra sugar. Yeah, pretty much. I think really just a lot of just the overreaction from our fans and stuff like that is just really how they perform the whole game. I think if it was something where even if they put up a little bit of a fight, it'd probably be a little bit lesser of a reaction for sure. Just like, all right, San Francisco's great. We put up a little bit of a fight. We look good in different areas. On to the next. But with just the whole entire game just being miserable, dude, I can see why. Of course, there's a lot of outrage, but it's the first week, and that's the toughest team they're going to play all season. So it is what it is. Real quick, Z asked Daniel, how was your loss to him in fantasy?
Hey, man, I've never played fantasy before, so it sucked. I now know a little bit more. I probably again.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, you have a way to bounce back this week, my friend. Ron asked when Johnson's out. They said a few weeks, so probably 2 to 3, maybe 3 to 4. I think that I don't know. Maybe they'll make a move for wide receiver, possibly to give him some strength there. Yeah, Ron, you can definitely join, man. If you're interested, you can definitely join, and we can have a spot for you next year, man.
I'll be a lot better.
So we definitely take the league seriously.
I'll be a lot better than y'all.
Hey, you'll win some games this year, man. You'll win some games. I like some guys on your team.
I got like blown out, in the 2 that I joined up, and my bench. I think if I would have put my bench, like some of the players from my bench in instead of the players that I had, I would have won by quite a bit. But the problem is, like, I don't study the rest of the NFL the way I do the Pittsburgh Steelers. I get my information about the other players in the NFL by the Steelers playing them, upcoming game, previous game, watching the all-22, and that's where I get an idea of these players. But I am actually going to have I want to do a live probably tomorrow, breaking down every pass attempt and determine what went wrong, what went right, whole 9 yards.
Yeah, that'd be a good video. Yeah, you should definitely do that. I'll tune into it.
There was only like 12 plays for the first half, so it wasn't very much.
No, not at all. So it shouldn't be too long of a video. But yeah, no, Daniel, definitely. It's only the first week for fantasy, man. Just all you can do at the end of the day is set your lineups, kind of feel good about some of your matchups, and just kind of like what Ron said, you might have to take a shot every once in a while, but you have some talent there, man. You can win some games this year. So 1 week at a time for fantasy. But yeah, Ron, you can have a spot next year, brother. But all right, so Daniel, we'll move over to the offense here. We know the offense has a lot that's had a lot of talk as well. I feel bad for Rodgers. Yeah, that's it definitely sucks that Aaron's out for the year. That was just absolutely brutal. I wish an Achilles tear on you. Well, Z, you already did kind of injure your knee, so but yeah, no, it definitely sucks for Rodgers. But dude, I was down for fantasy, and I told Daniel this before we went live. I was down 22 points in fantasy against this one guy, and Diggs was my last player, and I needed him to get me 23 to win, and he got me 26, and it was just a phenomenal comeback win. So I felt really good on that one. But yeah, it definitely sucks Rodgers is out for the year. That's just an absolute nightmare for if you were a Jets fan. But that's how we felt though when Ben was out for the year in 2019. It was a huge bummer. But yeah, so anyway, let's go to the offense. When we look at the offense, Daniel, we know the offense was miserable. It really speaks for itself. When the game started off, there was one completion, I think, to George Pickens, and then they did a an end around, pretty much kind of handoff to Calvin Austin that went nowhere, and then Kenny got sacked. I don't really think there's really anything. To me, there's really nothing positive at all offensively. George Pickens was involved. There was zero balance on offense. They painted themselves in a corner almost every drive when it came to third down, and they weren't able to set themselves up to be able to run the football. When they did run the football, there was a little bit success there, but they only ran it 9 times, which is absolutely terrible. And so they were not able to set themselves up. They were not able to have a balance. They were not able to get some of their playmakers involved. A lot of the play designs were terrible. Kenny was off on a lot of passes that he would probably normally make. Even just basic ones. There was a couple ones like you saw Deontay was cutting across the middle of the field that he whiffed on. There was one into the end zone. Deontay was cutting across the middle that could have been a walk-in touchdown for him that he missed. You can definitely go back and look at every single play and easily see what passes Kenny completely whiffed on. But Kenny was probably his worst start in his football career. But dude, he looked just really rattled. He looked really shaken, and it just seemed like he just didn't have any answer to recover at all from what San Francisco was showing him. And I don't want to say that he necessarily lost confidence, because I think that he's somebody who's mentally strong in terms of things. But he even just the one interception, like I know Johnson slipped on the field kind of during that one. He was supposed to do a comeback route or whatever, but then he had the one to Connor Hayward, which nobody can probably sit here and tell you why he threw that ball. That was tipped by Warner and picked off by Hufanga. So that was just an awful decision, but he just looked so lost. And I don't really think it's the first time so far when we've watched him, I've seen him kind of be that just out of it in the game. And there were people talking about, and I don't really buy into this, but there was some people talking about the one play where he also got taken down to the field where his helmet hit off the turf. I'm sure you saw that video. Where they were saying that he possibly get concussed on that drive and they didn't take him out. I feel like if he did, they would have taken him out. I don't really buy into that he got concussed on that play. Maybe it dazed him for a little bit, but ultimately it was nothing that they felt they needed to take him out of the game for. And he'll probably tell you the same thing. So at the end of the day, Daniel, there's really nothing positive to take out of this. There was a lot of frustration everywhere. I do think that we're going to be able to maybe see them kind of start in these next couple games, be able to get themselves into running the ball, because we saw how that happened last year. The second half of the year last year, they ran the ball really well every game, and it started to open up a little bit more for them to be able to pass that ball down the field. It opened up some more things. So if they can kind of get something going with Najee, with Jaylen Warren there, obviously we all know that will help at the end of the day. But when you look at this offense, do you think really any of this can be salvaged here? I know it's the first game of the year, but how do you feel about it being salvaged? How do you feel about even just the short term right now offensively in terms of it possibly maybe working itself there? It's still kind of young a little bit there too. But really just kind of your thoughts on just the offense as a whole, and how much confidence do you have of them maybe just being able to kind of maybe slowly rewrite themselves?
Yeah, I'm confident they're going to move up in the right direction. I think that this game wasn't like necessarily a fluke. Like I mentioned before, I think that at this point of the season, going up against that team with what they want to do offensively and defensively, not having those things on film, it hindered it. And when it comes to this offense, first thing I want to touch is the end around jet sweep style type forward pass, because it went forward to Calvin Austin on that second play there. Pat Freiermuth completely whipped on his block. Like it wasn't even funny. And then afterwards, he stands there and watches the guy tackle or attempt to tackle Calvin Austin before he realizes that he's still in a play, and then turns up completely missing the other two guys in pursuit. Now I understand, whiffing on the first guy, but find somebody else to block. Right. That play was disrupted solely because of Pat Freiermuth on that play. Yeah, now, I'm not saying that play was going to go for a big run or any of those things. that San Francisco team was fast and they moved quickly to that side.
Yeah.
But I will say that it was completely blown up. They had no chance because Pat Fryermuth completely blew that one. I think that those things are going to get better. I think the Steelers need to realize, though, that Pat Fryermuth may not be, that blocking tight end, that his specialty is in the passing game. And maybe utilize a little more of Darnell Washington, who was able to do what the tackles couldn't do, to Nick Bosa and pancaked him. You know what I'm saying? So, he gave trouble, Darnell Washington, that is, to Alex Highsmith during training camp and practice, to TJ Watt. I think that the one player that had success with him the most was Herbig. And so, with that being said, I think I would like to see a little bit more of Darnell Washington, especially when the Steelers plan on running the ball. I think that, this team's definitely going to get going in the right direction. Kenny just had a bad day. He didn't see the defense correct. I think that he was the San Francisco 49ers hid what they were doing quite a bit and did well. They would show like cover 2 a lot of time, and at the snap of the ball, it would switch. And I think even George Pickens had said something like they were playing cover 3 and they weren't expecting them to do so. And, like for instance, that interception that he had thrown trying to get the ball to Connor Hayward, he had everybody else open on that play, including probably 20 yards in front of him if he decided to run.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, there were some other decisions that I just didn't understand. I don't buy into that he had a concussion or any of those things.
Yeah, no, I don't
show any symptoms. The NFL has medical staff that are looking for those symptoms, and they don't care, what quarter it is or what team it's on or any of those or what player it is. Their main goal is to be neutral and for player safety, and that is it. And if he showed any sign or symptom of that, I think that they would have put him in the blue tent. And, I didn't see that. I didn't see any sign of that. It just looked like he was having a bad day. I think that it's going to be weird, man. If Chooks don't go in or he can't go this week, it might be a problem because I don't think Dan Moore was quite the best tackle on the right side. He wasn't the best tackle on the left side either, but he was better on the left than the right. And, if Chooks can't play, I don't know. That might be a big question mark.
Well, we might see just a good bit of Broderick Jones and Darnell Washington.
I hope so.
Yeah. But no, I agree. I think a lot of it was Kenny was, I think just overall the team was just really lacked in preparation in terms of what San Francisco gave them and everything. But it's going to be the best defense Kenny sees. And overall, there were, aside from just his play, there were a lot of other factors as well that went to this game that just hindered the offense completely. But yeah, no, I agree. I think Kenny, for him to just play like that, I think that he's, and this isn't me saying anything, but I think he's too good to just play like that. Does that make sense? Like he's too good to just play like that and play like a complete bum like that. That was his worst game as a Steeler. And we know he had bad games last year. We know he had some nice things in the second half of the season. But I agree. Like, I don't think that this is something that Kenny's going to carry with him. I think that he's just a really strong, mentally prepared type player in the sense of his confidence. And I don't think that this is something that's going to hold him back. He's somebody to me, from when you listen to him talk, how he carries himself, he's somebody to me that's able to just continue moving on, which is great. Some people just want to live in the past like that. But here's what I'm saying about Kenny. I never once said that Kenny was our franchise guy. I never said that. Those words never came out of my mouth. Do I hope that he turns into that? Absolutely, I do. And I think that he has tools and abilities that he has shown so far, that in flashes that he's shown, that you can look at and say, yeah, he can possibly be a solid quarterback for us. But he hasn't put it all together. We know last year there were some quarters he was good. There were some quarters he was bad. There was just some bad overall games. We're still waiting for him to be able to put that together on a consistent basis. And hopefully in these upcoming games that they face, Cleveland, maybe the Raiders, Texans before their bye week. He'll be able to maybe put some stuff together. But yeah, I agree. Just really overall a bad game. He just wasn't seeing things. And I just think that he's not bad like that, where he's going to be crap in the bed like that. It's just that's not him. That's not what we've seen out of him before. He's more accurate than that. We know that. I think there's higher end ability there than that. And I know it was preseason too. So we're not going to really put too much stock into it. But still with things we saw from preseason, even some guys that he went up against, we all know he looked great in preseason. But I think just really what San Francisco gave ultimately as a whole was something they just didn't prepare for. So I think when we see Monday night, man, I think that we're going to see better. I'm not going to say I think the offense is going to turn a 180. But I think we're going to see better just out of him. I don't think we're going to see some of the turnovers we saw. I think they'll establish more of them being able to run the ball better, and that will hopefully open up some things. But I'm still confident in him, Daniel, of being able to transition into somebody. But hopefully he can start putting that together sooner than later. And I hope so. I really do, because I think there's some things there that we saw that are good, but he needs to start getting it together sooner than later. He really does.
I agree. I mean, I don't think he's as bad as he showed. Obviously, he's shown way better than that, in his previous games, and even as a rookie. Now, I do agree that there is some tape on him now, and that defenses are going to attack his weakness,
right.
And not let him.
That's a great point. That's a
let
great
him
point.
do his strengths. And one of the things that I've noticed about him is that he's mentally tough. He doesn't let those things bother him. And I think that that's not going to be an issue. When it comes to Kenny, when they were getting at him and he had to go off platform, it just didn't look good. He doesn't have that ability. Mm-hmm. And, like there was a pick six that should have been, Kenny got hit. He threw it right to the
right to Warner.
Exactly. And, he just doesn't have the ability to do that. So if he's going to be successful, it's going to be determined on the line in front of them, given a clean pocket and the ability to do so.
Right.
I do think he has a great, he moves around the pocket well. He did last year. This year, this game, his presence was just kind of weird. Yeah. He stayed in the pocket a little bit too much. When he did escape, it wasn't like it was, towards the end of last year where he just kind of knew where to go, kept his eyes down the field, and was accurately throwing the ball down the field. In this game, he allowed the pressure to get to him, kind of like he just wanted to stay in the pocket more. I think maybe perhaps the noise of the offseason of him being like, a lot of biggest criticism against him this offseason was that he left clean pockets and that he had happy feet and that he got a little bit antsy, and that caused him to be inaccurate. In this game, maybe he was trying to overcompensate for that and try to stay in the pocket a little bit more than he should have. And, he just needs to play his game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely, Daniel. I agree with you. Here's Mark from Steelers Nation Australia. Fire Tomlin, Canada, the Rooneys, Pickett, and the whole offensive line. I've been a fan for 23 years. Disgraceful. I'm fed up. I'm going to go support a real club like the Bengals. And then he goes on to say, oh, wait, they lost too.
That's true. They did.
Oh, that's hilarious. Mark, good to have you in the chat, brother. Good to have you in the chat. I listened to some of your comments on some of your videos you put up, and I think you're kind of really on the same page here. But yeah, no, Kenny's got to be himself is something that he's got to move on from. I think they will, of course, they have to. But it's something that I feel like you can't get much worse than that, Daniel. Like you can't get much worse than how it was on Sunday on the offense. I think, and granted, we still do have a young offense. We do with the line and some of our position players and Kenny in year 2. We know Matt Canada is another topic of discussion. And maybe it takes a few weeks. Maybe it takes a few weeks for the offense to maybe finally be able to get their foot in the ground. Maybe it does. But if you can start on Monday of where you can actually set yourself up, of where you can establish something, establish an identity, establish something that's working for you, and try to stick with that, then that's a great first step. I mean, heck, even if they're a team that puts up maybe 17 points on Monday and you see a lot more efficiency passing, maybe and you see a little bit more running, because you got to give credit. Cleveland's defense can that they played great Sunday, and they can come in here and their defense can possibly do the same thing, just as I think our defense can do the same thing to their offense. So it's probably going to be a low scoring game. It's probably going to be a close game, but I think that if we can at least see somewhat of an identity offensively Monday, and then they can take that into the Raiders game, and then they can take that into the Texans game, I think you might be able to have something. Now, obviously, that's kind of, I don't even want to say that's best case scenario, because I'm not even saying like, oh, okay, we can do that and start doing all these things offensively. But it doesn't get much worse than that. So like I think that you expect them probably to do better. But I think, just like we said, Kenny, calm, cool, collected, is himself, more of himself than or more of himself like we saw the second half of the season last year, and able to be not panicked. Let the game come to you. Let the game come as the defense shows, as it comes along, and don't overthink things. Don't force things to happen. Let it come to you. Let your receivers try to make some plays. Try to get an established run game, which will help you as well. Try to get some of the pressure off your shoulders a little bit. And I think you'll start to see some good results. But I'm still confident in him, man. I still am. We all know it was just piss poor all around. But I still have confidence. I still like things from him. He's just got to kind of start putting it together on a consistent basis. Hopefully that will start a little bit on Monday. But overall, Daniel, when you look at what happened, how do you feel just from an overall perspective going into Monday night? Do you think that they're going to come out like ready to kick some ass, especially after the embarrassment that was Sunday? Do you think that maybe we'll see a little bit of this, a little bit of that, where we might still maybe see some issues that we saw Sunday, or you think that they're really just going to clean up really well and we're going to see a lot more cleaner game? And not that we don't need to make predictions or anything right now, and we'll do that in another live stream. But do you think that they're really just going to come out Monday ultimately as a different team than what we saw Sunday, or you think they'll kind of maybe be a little bit mixture of both of what we saw?
I think that they're going to be pissed. I think they're embarrassed. As a team, they said they were going to do some things and they didn't do it. Patrick Peterson said he was going to pick, and the 49ers have a tell, and it seemed like they were picking on him. And I think we're going to see a team that's going to put their head into the ground and just work this week. Just work. No talk, just work. And that's what we need to see. I don't want to hear anything about any receivers liking certain posts about their quarterback, or any disgruntledness or adversity coming out of the locker room. Right now is not the time or the place to do that. They're pro athletes. They can't be doing that. And I think that there's a good mixture of veterans. Yeah, there's a good mixture of veterans and youth on this team that they're going to be able to get through this. I got faith that they're going to be able to pull the win out still. We'll talk more, like you said, about the the minutia of that game and predicting everything. But do they have a possibility of winning that game? I think so. I wasn't impressed with the Cleveland offense. Deshaun Watson did last season. So I think that there's a possibility there. They definitely need to have a cleaner game. It starts with that, having a cleaner game, and just making sure that they're doing their jobs. And doing their jobs effectively. And that might be the approach for this, is like, hey, we made a lot of mistakes. Instead of trying to, do anything crazy, let's just do your job and get effective at it. And then we can slowly implement, or as they progress, implement some of the more exotic type of things. I just think that they're too new to each other right now.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's newness this year. We know that there's more expectations than there was last year, but there's still newness. Might take a couple weeks to get the feet wet. Ron, we appreciate you tuning in, man. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you next episode. Hope you and the family are doing well. Real quick, Z says Ravens, no question, winning the division this year. Lamar was horrendous. I don't know what to tell you. And you had a Mickey Mouse cupcake win, so I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, no, dude, I hear you. This is a great opportunity to be able to rewrite what happened Sunday. It's a great opportunity to try to have a nice stretch before your bye week because it's an early bye week. And even without Deontay, a guy like Allen Robinson, and I did kind of like what Calvin Austin showed a little bit at a receiving ability on Sunday. So he's going to get some opportunity. See ya, boys. You aren't in the league next year. Oh, that's hilarious. Calvin Austin is going to get some good opportunity again. And I think that maybe we might be able to see a little Mount Washington in the receiving game. I would love to see that. Try to maybe do a little play action. I'm not really quite sure what you do on that, but I agree. I think we'll be cleaner. We know how the Steelers will rebound sometimes from really bad games. We know it's the Browns, so it's a big division game. It's home again. But I think that we should still feel confident in them going into this game. No matter how you felt going into that game Sunday and even coming out of that game Sunday, I think mostly everybody should have a certain feel of confidence of them having a really nice bounce back. And it does, and like what you said with the Browns offense, we know Nick Chubb has given us issues over the years. But Deshaun wasn't very good himself. He had some plays on his legs, so that's something you'll have to watch out for. But the Cleveland defense did great. But still, there's still things that you can do offensively against that Cleveland defense because Myles Garrett never freaking shows up against us, number one. Number two, they have, even though, they have a couple guys on their D-line, they have some nice corners, but attack the middle of the field. Their linebackers, their linebackers aren't going to stop guys cutting across the middle of the field. Get a guy like Calvin Austin cutting across the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see that. Get him in some open space. So the Browns are a winnable game. Of course they are. The Steelers freaking handle the Browns every year. But it's just a matter of, like what you said, putting your head down, going to work, you know what happened, showing up, and having a better game plan. And having some humble pie and recognizing, look, we're not on the Niners level right now. We need to get to that level. How do we get to that level? By freaking putting in the work. This is a defense that can be a really strong unit. They didn't show it Sunday, but I'm really confident in them being able to get back to that, even without Cam Hayward for the next month and a half or 2 months. Offensively, we know there's still some things there. We know I said before, Canada's still an outlier, and there's still some young things there. It might take 2, 3, 4 weeks to maybe get some things gelling, but it can't be as worse as it was Sunday. And you got to be able to establish an identity. And if you can do that, I think that they can score some points. Derpy Entertainment says the Steelers have to bounce back Monday night. Can't give the Clowns more confidence into week 3. No, absolutely. And Browns fans are talking up a storm against the Bengals. The Bengals were horrendous. We all know that. But this is what they do. They talk up a storm because they have nothing better to do for themselves because they've never won anything. So they don't know how to handle situations of where they actually win games. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to be able to, hold on one second. It's a great opportunity of being able to bounce back, being able to have a nice stretch over these next 4 or 5 games. And the thing is that you got to get it together sooner than later. And it's still earlier in the year. We're only in week 2. But I think that from coaching standpoint, from a franchise standpoint, from a talent standpoint, this team's too good to not be able to bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I agree.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. You just have to kind of, I don't know. You just kind of have to wait and see how they implement their game plan. I hope Desmond King plays. That would be a huge addition to them in the secondary. Keanu Benton definitely deserves to get a lot more snaps. So at the end of the day, there's going to be a couple guys that are going to have to step up. But we've seen this road so many times with this team where there's a bad game, an ugly game, and they have a great bounce back, or where the defense finally starts to go on a stretch of putting up some good wins. The offense needs to start. We all know this. It needs to get it together on a more consistent basis. But still, there's still too much talent there. And get George Pickens the ball on Monday night. Get him the ball on Monday night. Make him a focal point. Scheme things up that are going to get him open. You have to. Pat Freiermuth, utilize Darnell Washington inside the red zone. Establish identity. Establish a running game with Harris and Warren, because when you ran the ball, it was at least working for the minimum times that you did on Sunday. So I think Najee and Warren are a duo that can be really nice together. But you gotta get things set in the ground. You have to be able to get things gelled together. And we all know this. You got to have balance on offense. You got to have an identity. And I think them running the ball, Daniel, I think that's the best identity they can have right now is being able to run the ball down your throat. And that's going to take more pressure off Kenny's shoulders. And it's going to start trying to open up to get some guys open. But you got to scheme George Pickens to get open, because he's a guy, he needs the ball. He's going to make plays. We all know this. I'm not saying anything different. So all we can do is hope on that. I think even when you look back and look at film from Sunday's offense and you look at some of these play calls, they were just horrific. The one where they were inside the at the 8-yard line and they ran in all 4 verticals play call.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, oh my God. Like, dude, when you look at that and you looked at the open part of the field, like, you're telling me you couldn't have somebody cutting across there? I mean, dude, what in the world? I don't understand that at all. Z says there are more Niner fans than Steeler fans that game. I don't know about that, but there were a lot of Niner fans. That's something that can't be happening. There were a ton of Niner fans. Derpy, last time the Browns finished ahead of the Steelers, besides winning it in 89, was 87. Ever since the Browns have not finished ahead of the Steelers in the division. Yep. And so that's what I mean. I don't understand how their fans can talk right now about anything. What do you think about AB from what he said today about I don't know if you saw that or not. He put a picture of him in a Steelers jersey saying, "Hear me out."
I mean,
oh my God.
I mean, maybe. Just kidding. I think the Steelers wide receiver group is still okay. I don't think that that would be a desperate move. And besides that, I don't think he's anywhere near game shape or any of those things.
Oh, not at all. I mean, when's the last time he played? What was that? 2021?
When he took his jersey off, I think that was right.
Yeah.
On the Jets field.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, man. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers make a move from outside of the organization to get a receiver in. That'd be true. That'd be.
What do you think? A guy like a Jarvis Landry.
I mean, he's dependable, but isn't he more of like a slot guy at this point in his career?
Yeah. But with Johnson not being out long term, like, I don't think they need to go out and go get like even somebody that's like a number 2 type guy. I don't think they need to do that. I think Allen Robinson can still make some plays. We all know, not the player he was before, but he still can make some plays. Calvin Austin had some nice things on Sunday, but there's a few people on the market that I think you can maybe make a call to if need be. Z says bring back Marcus Wheaton. Yeah. I think last time Marcus Wheaton played was 2016.
Yeah.
Been a long time since we've seen him. Holy cow. But yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes teams need things like this. I mean, there's teams this weekend too that were just, like I said, half the league got blown out too this week. And those are probably situations too that they're in the same situation as we are, of where they're pissed off and wanting to bounce back and stuff. But the thing is, this is the Steelers at the end of the day. And the Steelers, whenever they get their teeth kicked in, more times than not, they do find themselves wreak havoc and bouncing back. Even with Ben, even we had Ben and those guys, like they still had some ugly ass freaking games, dude. How many games did they lose that they should have won? You know how many times that they dropped games that with Bell and Brown and all these guys on offense and stuff like that? I mean, dude, it was freaking terrible.
That team went with Ben. Ben played well.
Yeah.
the team was going to play well.
Right.
And, Ben was really, really good when he was playing some of the preseason games. And then as he got older, he stopped playing them. I think he played, after his injury because he wanted to get warmed up into it in 2020 against, I think it was maybe the Lions. And so, I think he played in that preseason game. But, putting that to the side, all the other years, he never played in the preseason games. He didn't throw the ball much in the offseason. And so they would get off to a slow start. There isn't really that excuse for this team. The offense played well in preseason. They did what they were supposed to have done. Now, maybe should have Tomlin kept the offense out there a little bit longer. I think so. I mean, they had no adversity this preseason, and everything came very quickly. Just a few plays, a couple of snaps, and that was it. I just, I understand they were successful and things of that nature, but let them drive down the field and see if you have that, because without the big splash play, they didn't score. Yeah. And there was very little splash play in this game, so they didn't score.
Yeah.
And I want to see something where they have to methodically go down the field and not in 2-minute drill, like an actual freaking drive.
Right.
When was the last time we saw that? Not a 2-minute drill.
It's hard. It's hard to sit back and think of all the times. I think when we look at the offense the last few years, man, it's hard to look back. I think this was a stat. The Steelers have not had a 400-yard performance since 2021.
Yeah.
On offense. I mean, that's just not cutting. That's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad. I mean, we have to put in some context there. Ben's last year, he had Kevin Dotson and Kendrick Green as his starting center and left tackle or left guard. So he had to get the ball out quick. Things had
and Dan Moore.
Dan Moore as a rookie. Yeah. So, from the center to the left, it just was a nightmare for him.
Yeah, and, it was.
Thinking back on that and him having to get rid of the ball so quickly, he had this offline and these receivers, I think the Steelers could have done some damage still, even with Ben at his older age.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely something when you look back at that, just really what they ultimately gave him in his last year. But when you just look at that number on paper, the last 3 years that the Steelers have not had since week 1 of 2021, they have not put up a 400-yard performance. It's freaking nuts. It's freaking nuts. So I don't know. There's even more conversations we can have in terms of just really where with this team. But I think that people and just the game was very discouraging Sunday. It was, just given the fact of just how bad everything was. But it's very, very, very unlikely we're going to see anything like that again this Monday. Don't think that they're going to just go through Cleveland. I think it'll be a good game, but this is a team that, like kind of what you said too, that is pissed off. And whenever we see the Steelers in these kind of predicaments, they find themselves coming back. And you don't count out the Steelers at the end of the day. You don't count out Mike Tomlin, and it's only week 1. This is how it goes. I mean, the teams, Seattle and Chicago and the Giants and all these other teams that got freaking rattled, and or any of the other teams, Cincinnati, that got upset and stuff like that, Buffalo, they're all kind of in the same predicament we are, of just what you need to do to bounce back week 1, because it is week 1. And you see teams that struggle out of the gate and end up building something really good. You see teams that do well out of the gate and fall off a cliff. That's just how it goes. But I think that a lot of people should have confidence in the Steelers just having a nice comeback this Monday, being able to bounce back, and be able to try to put together a nice stretch these next 3-4 games.
Yeah, I mean, there's some wonky stats there too, man. Like Deontay Johnson having the receptions and being the number 1 wide receiver last year, the yards, and not having a touchdown.
It's crazy.
Kenny Pickett hasn't thrown a multiple touchdown game in his career. Like, those things they just don't jive with me, especially with the talent that the team has.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
I agree. It's something that is pretty remarkable, pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, they just, I don't know. It's just sucked how Sunday went, but you got to move on from it. That's just the way it is. You got to move on from it, man. I remember too when we played. What year was that? I remember I remember some Steeler openers, man, home or away, man. I remember we've lost some really bad openers. I remember 2015 was a really bad game against New England. Um, there was another game, 2019 against New England was terrible. Even 2021. There's some, at least at the top of my head. I know there was one, I think back in 2011 or 2012 where they lost like 40-7 against the Ravens, opening their first game of the year, and they ended up going 12-4. So it's just stuff like that, man, that week one is usually just very weird and bizarre. I mean, even Minnesota got upset against Baker Mayfield. So it's just one of those things, dude, where week one is always full of overreactions. Week one's always full of knee-jerk reactions on stuff. You just got to really you know where a team's at usually come the middle of the year. It's a short season, but it's a long season at the same time. There's a lot of football
100%.
to be. Yeah, that's just kind of how it is. So, Mark says the overreacting's madness. Sure, we played bad, but to give up on a season, turn in your card, never ask for it back. No bachelor party, Mark. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things, man. It's just what fans do all the time. There's fans from all teams all over that lost or got blown out of the water that are freaking going crazy over stuff. Every fan base does it. But yeah, at the end of the day, though, I think we all should have some confidence in the Steelers having a nice bounce back Monday and be able to maybe stash up some a few nice wins coming in. But we'll talk more. Daniel and I are gonna do another show before the game Monday night, probably maybe Saturday night. Daniel, 6-7 o'clock on Saturday. You good for that?
I'll let you know. My wife has some family in town, so I think we might be a little bit preoccupied Saturday night, but we'll definitely work out something, and I'll put it in the community post.
Cool. Yeah, no, yeah. So, guys, the next show will be on Daniel's channel. We're going to talk about Monday Night Football. We're going to talk about, we'll just give our thoughts, predictions. You guys give us your thoughts and predictions on stuff. But this was just an episode, Daniel. We knew there's gonna be a lot to talk about, kind of dissecting both sides of the ball, just the game overall, some of the injuries. Who knows? Maybe the Steelers do make a signing this week at wide receiver and bring somebody in off the market that can at least maybe fill in for a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks while Deontay Johnson's out. Thank God he's not out long term. Because he's still a talented guy. I know he gets flack, man, but he gets separation. He's a good route runner. He's good in the open field, but we know too, he'll make some mistakes and inconvenient times, but it is what it is.
Have they released what grade of hamstring he had and
not
the
yet.
expectation?
Okay. Yeah, not yet. They didn't release what kind it was. But all I've seen is it's probably about a 2 to 3 week injury from Ian Rappaport and guys like that.
That's good.
That's what I've seen. So hopefully it's not something that lingers either. Sometimes those things can kind of linger for another week or two. But the Steelers still, even with DJ out against Cleveland, man, they still have guys on their offense that can make plays. They got to put it together. They got to scheme up guys to get open. They got to scheme up guys in terms of what works, what doesn't work. So they got to take the week to do that. But like I said, I think we should be confident in them being able to bounce back and be able to have a nice string of trying to put something together in these next 3-4 games coming up. So 1 week at a time, guys. Week one, still early. We all understand just kind of the reactions and everything everybody's been talking about and stuff like that. It comes with it. All fans are doing it with their own teams that suffered kind of the similar path we did. It is what it is. You just got to move on, man. And I think, Daniel, honestly, to be honest with you, man, I think come this weekend, we'll be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. When it comes to that hamstring injury, though, he went down, man. I've pulled a couple of hamstrings and I've torn a hamstring. And there's a significant difference on what you can do and how you can move. And if you go to the ground, I hope it's nothing serious. But I mean, I just look. Schefter said that he's going to be gone for a few weeks.
Right.
So I think it'd be closer to probably 4-6, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I'm sure more stuff will come out this week. More stuff will come out in the coming weeks as they continue to evaluate. When they said a few weeks, I just kind of took that as 2 to 3, maybe 3 to 4. Hopefully it's not something that lingers. Hopefully it's something, if it is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, hopefully that's probably best case scenario. We'll see as more comes out. George asks, is Nate Herbig playing for James Daniels? I think Mike Tomlin said that he expects him to play this week. I think James Daniels might be okay for this week. I think Freiermuth will be okay. Okorafor is the one with the concussion. So they had another off day today, and then they'll practice Wednesday through Saturday. But yeah, guys, we'll end it there. A lot to talk about. Daniel, I think we had a pretty good episode here. I was actually really excited to talk about it. But guys, like I said, or like what Daniel said, we'll have a show on his channel. He'll put it out on his channel in terms of when that will be. So stay in tune on that. You guys will get some notifications, and we'll talk about the Monday Night Football game. But overall, I think we'll be feeling better as we get closer to that game. And the Steelers just have a great opportunity, man. They have a great opportunity to rewrite things and to get themselves stirred in the right direction. So they do. Still early. They have a great opportunity to do it. So, but yeah, guys, thank you all for your support. George and Mark, good seeing you guys, and Steelers girl, Steelers fan, Z, Jair, Ron, who was in here earlier, Derpy, everybody, guys. We all appreciate your guys' support. All good seeing you guys. So we will be back on Daniel's channel, possibly Saturday, might be a different day, and we'll talk some Monday Night Football. See you guys.